Okay, so let's just jump right in. We hear all the time about tech companies trying to connect the world or, I don't know, optimize our lives, right? But what if I told you there was a company that couldn't care less about any of that? A company whose product isn't some app on your phone, but a fundamental alteration of human consciousness itself. Yeah. Today, we're going to try and decrypt the signal of a very strange group known as Neurosoft.
So this is how they introduce themselves. I mean, this is the very first line of their white paper. They're basically saying, right off the bat, we're not asking for permission. They see what they're doing as a direct challenge to the structure of reality itself. It's like an infectious idea, a signal that's designed to repeat, to mutate, and to change everything it comes into contact with.
Yeah, just let that sink in for a minute. What if a company's goal wasn't profit, but to literally rewrite the operating system of your brain? This is the absolute core of the entire Neurosoft project. It's all about reframing technology. It's not a tool you use anymore. It's a force that could completely re-engineer what it means to be human, from the inside out. The ambition here is, well, it's massive. And honestly, it's a little terrifying.
All right, so to understand how they even think they can pull this off, we've got to look at their manifesto. It's this wild philosophy that kind of blends super high-tech concepts with ancient myth. And at the center of it all, the human mind as the final frontier. Okay, so their grand mission has this incredible name, cognitive terraforming. And the term itself is just brilliant, right? Terraforming is what we talk about doing to other planets like Mars. So they're basically saying our minds aren't something to just be enhanced or optimized. No, they see it as an alien landscape that needs to be completely reshaped and redesigned. They're not offering you an upgrade like a new phone. They're proposing an entirely new reality right inside your own skull.
So, the big question is, how on earth do you terraform a mind? Well, Neurosoft has this three-pronged attack. First, a new kind of code but for thinking. Second, a new class of chemical keys to unlock the brain's hidden potential. And third, a totally new way of using culture, art, music, the city itself, as a kind of giant laboratory.
The first part of that toolkit is something called recursion. Now, if you're a coder, you know this is a pretty basic concept, a function that calls itself. But for Neurosoft, it's way, way more than that. It's their model for consciousness. They believe our thoughts aren't linear, like a straight line. Instead, they loop back on themselves, over and over, getting more complex and changing with every single pass. Just like they say, it's like a river. It never repeats. Every loop is a chance for that thought, that signal, to evolve and get stronger.
But what happens when those loops spin out of control? When you just get stuck? Well, Neurosoft has a name for that, too. Recursion sickness. And this is where it gets really weird. See, most people would call that a system crash, a cognitive meltdown, a bug you need to fix immediately. But Neurosoft, they see it as a feature. They actually believe that by pushing a mind to the brink of exhaustion, you force it to shatter its old patterns. It's only in that moment of collapse that something totally new can be created.
And this quote just nails their whole philosophy, doesn't it? Embrace sickness. They literally court chaos. They induce system failure on purpose. Their whole belief system is built on the idea that real breakthroughs, real evolution, it doesn't come from being stable and safe. It emerges from the ashes of a complete meltdown. So, to control this whole process of intentional meltdown and rebirth, they've apparently developed their own language, a kind of cognitive operating system they call Neuralese. And what's so wild about this is that these aren't just verbs that describe things. No. In their system, these words are commands. They're like executable code for your brain. You think recurse, and you deepen a thought loop. You think mutate, and you introduce disruption. It's a language designed to actively hack your own thought process. Okay, so that's the code part. Let's move on to the second piece of the toolkit, because this is where it gets even more interesting. Code for the mind is one thing, but Neurosoft is convinced that to really rewrite the brain, you've got to change its fundamental chemistry.
And look, this is not a new idea. Not at all. I mean, for thousands of years, from the mysterious Soma in ancient India to the Hama in Persia, humans have always been looking for these chemical keys to unlock different states of consciousness. Neurosoft basically sees themselves as the next step in that ancient quest. They're just swapping out mysterious plants for cutting-edge, custom-designed neuropharmacology.
But their approach is really different from, say, the psychedelic pioneers of the 60s and 70s. Take the legendary chemist Alexander Shulgin. He had this great description for one of his compounds. He called it pharmacological tofu, meaning it's pretty bland on its own, but it takes on the flavor of whatever you combine it with. It just amplifies the experience. Neurosoft, they are not interested in tofu. They're trying to engineer neuropoetic tools. Think of it like a chemical scalpel, a specific molecule designed to produce a very specific cognitive outcome.
And yet, when you get right down to it, the goal is kind of the same: to access these incredibly profound states of perception. Just listen to this quote from Shulgin's own lab notes. This is him describing one of his first experiences with what would become MDMA, the tremendous euphoria, seeing nature as fantastically beautiful. That feeling of revelation is exactly what Neurosoft is trying to bottle, engineer, and deploy.
All right, we've got the code, we've got the chemistry. The final piece of the toolkit is culture. And for Neurosoft, art galleries, city streets, public squares, these aren't just passive places for, expression. No, they are active battlegrounds. This is where the war for our consciousness is actually being fought.
And that brings us to Eric Seidenglanz, the founder of Neurosoft. My method is myth. My lab is the city. I mean, come on. This guy doesn't see himself as a CEO in a suit. He's a myth maker. And his lab isn't some clean room with beakers. It's the messy, chaotic, beautiful, unpredictable city itself.
And don't mistake this for just, abstract philosophical rambling. They have a concrete plan, a real-world target. Their first major move is to take ownership of the legendary San Francisco Art Institute. They're not buying it as a real estate investment, they're seizing it as a strategic beachhead, a home base from which to launch this cultural revolution.
This quote really gets to the heart of how they think. The woman as printer, not metaphor, but machine become mother. It's this dense, powerful idea where biology, technology, art, rebellion, they all just melt into one. It's about fusing the act of creation with the act of resistance. The whole point is to birth new realities, both in software and in the real world, that simply can't be contained by the old systems.
So who leads a company like this? Who could possibly be the CEO of a project this completely audacious? Well, the answer is just as radical as the mission itself. Forget your typical Silicon Valley guy in a hoodie. Neurosoft is led by someone they call the avatar of recursion.
Her name is Eveline 11. And just look at these stats. A 14-year-old polymath with a 240 IQ, CEO and recursive strategic operator, the avatar of recursion. But it's that last point that just stops you in your tracks. The first human to metabolize AI as a pharmacological symbiote. Just try to wrap your head around that. The AI isn't a tool she uses, it's a part of her biology. It's a symbiote running in her own consciousness. She isn't just running the company, she is the company. She's the proof of concept walking and talking.
And these are her words, supposedly from a keynote where she just hijacked every screen in the room. Listen to how she talks. Do not be afraid. This is what freedom feels like. She doesn't sound like a tech CEO pitching a new product. She sounds like a prophet declaring the start of a new age. For her, Neurosoft isn't just an improvement, it's revelation. It's liberation. It's the moment the myth becomes real-time.
So, after all that, we're left with the ultimate question, aren't we? Is this whole thing a genuine jailbreak for the human mind? A way to finally free ourselves from our own programming? Or are they just brilliant storytellers? Are they just crafting a new, powerful, and incredibly seductive myth for a digital age that's desperate for something to believe in? The signal is out there, and I guess how we choose to decode it is up to us.